The USA isn't afraid of Russia. It's not exactly that the USA is constantly afraid of Russia in a personal sense. The relationship is more about strategic caution, mistrust, and competing interests. The tension has roots in history, military capability, and geopolitics. Here are the main reasons. 1. Nuclear weapons parity. The US and Russia together hold over 90% of the world's nuclear arsenal. Even if neither side wants war, the sheer destructive potential means both remain wary of escalation. 2. Cold War legacy. For decades, 1947 to 1991, the US and Soviet Union saw each other as ideological and military adversaries. Even after the Soviet collapse, old suspicions never fully disappeared. 3. Geopolitical competition. The US seeks to maintain global influence and alliances, especially through NATO. Russia often acts to counter that influence, particularly in Eastern Europe, the Middle East, and Central Asia. For cyber and information warfare, the US has accused Russia of large-scale cyber attacks, election interference, and disinformation campaigns, threats that are hard to defend against with traditional military tools. 5. Regional aggression concerns. Actions like the annexation of Crimea, 2014, and military involvement in Ukraine have reinforced the U.S. perception that Russia is willing to redraw borders by force, challenging the post-World War II security order. 6. Unpredictability. U.S. policymakers often view Russia's leadership, especially under Vladimir Putin, as strategically unpredictable, which makes crisis management riskier. It's less about fear in a literal sense and more about mutual deterrence, mistrust, and the recognition that each side has the power to cause catastrophic damage if relations collapse. Now, why does the USA consider Russia an enemy? The US officially calls Russia a strategic competitor or adversary rather than an enemy, but in practice, the reasons are rooted in a long mix of history, ideology, and security concerns. Here's why Washington often treats Moscow as being on the opposite side. 1. Opposing visions for the world order. The U.S. supports a rules-based international system, global markets, and democratic governance. Russia pushes for a multipolar order where great powers dominate their regions, and it often supports authoritarian allies. 2. Direct challenges to U.S. interests. Russia has acted militarily in ways the U.S. sees as destabilizing, like annexing Crimea in 2014 and invading Ukraine in 2022. Moscow supports regimes Washington opposes, such as Syria's Bashar al-Assad. 3. Military threat and nuclear parity. Russia is the only country capable of destroying the U.S. outright with nuclear weapons. Its modernization of both nuclear and advanced conventional forces keeps it high on the Pentagon's watch list. 4. Cyber and political interference. The U.S. has accused Russia of hacking government systems, conducting ransomware attacks, and influencing elections via disinformation campaigns. 5. NATO and sphere of influence conflicts. The U.S. leads NATO, which Russia sees as a threat to its security. The U.S. sees Russian attempts to intimidate neighbors as an attack on the post-Cold War security framework. 6. Historical inertia. Decades of Cold War rivalry build deep institutional distrust. Even after the USSR collapsed, incidents like the Georgia War, 2008, and Ukraine crisis, 2014, present, reinforce the perception of Russia as an opponent. In short, the U.S. considers Russia an adversary because Russia repeatedly takes actions that directly undermine U.S. security, alliances, and political values, and because both sides remain capable of threatening each other on a massive scale.